Yay, Mikey and I are back today. Woo woo! And today we have Tristan Helm. He is such an amazing guest. He and I actually had a chance to talk the other day, and it was fabulous. So I'm hoping maybe we can hear some more gems from him that he and I were able to talk about the other day. How are you?
Doing very well. I'm making it through everything.
Yeah, how's
Awesome.
the moving?
So glad to have you here.
Yeah, we finally got settled in.
Good, good. I see some boxes, so I see you're not quite done yet, but it seems
No, we're
like...
getting there. My office has been like my main priority. My office and my garage.
Awesome. I love it. So Mikey, why don't you start us off with a question?
Well, I just wanted, if you could just first just talk about like a little bit about your background and give our viewers that don't know you like just a little bit about your history, and then we'll go from there if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so obviously my name is Tristan Helm. I am a qualified mental health professional, which is kind of just like a surface of where I come from and what I do. I spent a great deal of my life either battling addictions myself or being the subject of someone else's addictions from my family members. But about 9 years ago, I began working at a jail, and my passion kind of transitioned from wanting to be in law enforcement to counseling and teaching and therapeutic rapport and teaching people how to overcome mental and emotional barriers. Essentially what happened was I got the job and I was like, yes, I'm going to become a cop next. I'm getting my degree. I graduated. I got my criminal justice degree. And I found myself like relating to the inmates, just like, oh, so how did you get here? So what was your relationship with your parents like? So what happened in your life? There'd be issues like between a couple inmates, and I'd pull one out and go talk to them, and we'd, strategize, or they'd be booking out. I'm like, hey, remember what we talked about? Do this, this, and this. And it just kind of hit me one day. It's like, I think I enjoy this more than everyone locked down.
And being up. Yeah, that's great.
Like I would much rather, and there's a place for officers. I don't, but it was just, that was my calling, that my gifting, whatever you want to call it. It was just, I felt more in line and in tune with doing that. And I got in, do what?
No, that's a beautiful thing when you realize that, and you realize your gift is helping people, and like the conversations and what you can help them discover about themselves, push them to get past that. That's awesome. Keep going though.
Yeah. Well, I would say that one of the biggest transitions was while I was working as an officer, I got into multi-level marketing, which I was like, that's stupid. I'll never do that. And I really got into the whole personal growth aspect of it. Like I got hungry for like Les Brown, Eric Thomas, Tony Robbins, Will Smith, Zig Ziglar, like all these men, just listening to them. I'm just like, wow.
Powerful.
I want to do that.
Great.
And so I began reading. Like, as you see, I love books. I love books. And while I'm working as an officer, I was doing multi-level marketing. I got into connecting, cold calling, doing meetings with people, speaking in front of people. I really just kind of developed a passion for that. And like the network marketing was like, oh yeah, that's cool. So for me, when I did it, I got my money's worth.
Good.
Even though I didn't make a lot from the company, I made a lot with my experience, with my passion development, with my personal growth. And then I started kind of working with children that were in state custody. And I fell in love even more with it. Then I moved here to Texas, and I did a little door knocking salesmanship. And then I began working as a qualified mental health professional. And I really began studying psychology, brain chemistry, and just as kind of like a little background, I failed like science.
So did
I. Like I was terrible at it.
I did too. I failed all those statistics, everything, calculus, everything, all algebra I failed, but yeah, I get it now.
Yeah.
Oh, continue.
It's weird how it clicks. I'm like, that's what a neurotransmitter is. I was like, how did I not get this when I was younger?
Mm.
And so I barely passed my science classes, and now it's just like I've become like this connoisseur of, so how does brain chemistry work? What is dopamine? What is endorphin? What is serotonin, melatonin? How do these things, what's the subconscious mind? And I began learning how the body and the brain react to these chemicals, and how to pretty much, without sounding too bad, how to like override your emotions and override that negative stimuli and put something in positive with it, and not like happy, but like intense positivity where it's meaningful and it's purposeful, and you can like override that brain chemistry where you begin developing more positive results.
Awesome.
Love that. I know that we talked about some of your specialties, and we talked about learning to love yourself again. I'd love for you to speak a little bit about that, because I think what you have to offer is amazing. It definitely blows my mind. So if you wouldn't mind speaking about that.
Absolutely. So what I have found, and again, a lot of this is just observational. Like I said, I've been working with people for 17 years, mentally handicapped, prisons, and group homes. And I've just noticed a lot. And then personally, where I come from, my mother was heavily abused and addicted to medication and drugs, and she used to steal from me. Watching how that affects her, watching how it affected my family, watching how it affected me, just pretty much just experiencing and visualizing trauma everywhere around me, I began developing a very strong passion for self-value. And I don't know if I told you about my book, but that was kind of like the basis for my book that I wrote, was that inner value and loving that person inside. Because what happens, and it's almost sounds like an overused analogy, but it's still powerful. You know, I could take a $5 bill and crumble it up, get it wet. It's still $5, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you treat it. And I began also kind of digging deeper into that analogy, if you mind me indulging a little bit into this. What I really felt God showing me was, the only difference between a $1 bill and a $100 bill is the value they represent. They're the same size, they're made of the same paper, which is technically not paper, but the same ink, same letterings. It's a serial number each of them have. They represent gold in the National Treasury. Like, there's like so many similarities, but one difference, and that's the value they represent. And what I really believe God showed me was, like, people, they value themselves as like a dollar bill. And I know there's higher dollar bills, but like, they're $100 bill. But the problem is they're taking that $100 bill value and going to like Dollar Tree and spending it on something much, much less valuable, just cheap stuff. But once we understand what value is inside of us, not because of what's happened on the outside, but what's set inside of us, it's that whenever our standards begin to raise as individuals, as a community, and we begin treating ourselves with respect, we begin loving ourselves, begin saying, you know what? I'm probably better off. I'm going to have to cut you off. Not because I don't like you, not because you're bad, not because there's anything wrong with you. If there's something wrong with this relationship, and I value myself enough to cut it off, for at least for now.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's become like almost my mantra is that inner value and that emotional health, when it comes to how you view yourself, will set the standard for how you live your life and what you allow and what you don't allow. Again, if you value $100, you're not just going to go spend it on whatever and whenever. You're going to be like, no, what can I do with this?
Right.
So
I love
that's
that.
a little tidbit of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've studied NLP, so like part of that is reconnecting with your younger self that was
Yes.
damaged. And when you're aligned with your younger self and you're holding hands with your younger self, your alignment with yourself, then you can forgive yourself for, you know, a lot of things. You can start to love
Yes.
again. And then once you love yourself, you know, people will see it around you and you can love everybody else, you know?
Yes.
So, but yeah, that was a great analogy with the dollar bill. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, it is just something I learned in psychology, which again, I mean, I took 30 some odd classes for my criminal justice, and I remember my sociology, my psychology more. But he told me, or he told the class, he's like, no one ever like wants to be a prostitute. No one ever wants to be addicted to drugs. No one ever wants that stuff. He said, but what happens is something happens and they veer off. Then something happens and they veer off. And it just keeps going off. And next thing you know, they're doing things they would have never, ever wanted to do as a child. So you have to take them back to that pivotal moment, that event, whether it's, you know, incrementally, like just bringing it down, or you take them back to that event and you help them heal that point. They can get lined up.
Yeah, timeline there. It's very cool. Yeah, I love it.
So something that you mentioned about veering off, that's a really great point. And I want you to speak a little bit more about that. And what I'm getting at is that, you know, you can't go from 0 to 60. Usually if you're headed in the wrong direction, you have to at least stop and then go back the other way. So when you're starting to learn to respect and love yourself, I think that people have unrealistic expectations and expect it to happen like that just because, you know, okay, I'm ready to. And, you know, what do you think is a good first move for people who do want to do the work?
Very similar to kind of like the first time we talked, is that evaluation, sitting down and saying, you know, how did I get here? What happened to me? What's been done to me? What decisions have I made? And not in a shameful way, but just accepting that, you know what, this is where I'm at. I can do nothing about the past. I'll touch on it briefly, but I've got like trying to like be very conservative with the stuff I say, because it's like I can do this all day long. I'm very passionate, as you can tell. But you know, there's a difference between our thoughts and our beliefs. Our thoughts are like, yeah, you know, I believe that this thing is red. Yeah, okay. I see it's red. I believe that. And then we think something, it's just kind of the best way to put it, it's just surface. When you think about something, yeah, okay, I love myself. Yeah, I really should love myself. You know what? I really should respect myself more. But when you dig into the belief of it, like, no, I need to love myself, and I need to evaluate what is tearing me down and what's building me up. I need to really get a grip on that. And it's like anything, the deeper you go, the more you're going to find. And it's necessary because you got to dig out roots, the bad roots that are killing everything else in your life. And you've got to remove those roots. And that's painful. And that's time consuming, and you're going to screw it up. You're going to mess up. You're going to have days of feeling completely hopeless. It's going to happen. And when we set that false expectation, we feel discouraged. Oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I got back with my boyfriend. Oh, I let this happen. Oh, I got swindled out of money again. Like, wait, this is a part of it. But the reason why you're upset with yourself is because you did not expect it. I'm not saying expect bad things, but I'm saying allow there to be, for lack of better terms, wiggle room to make those mistakes, to where you're like, okay, this is what I got to do. I heard Les Brown say it, and it brought tears to my eyes, and it does it almost every time. But he said after flopping and messing up his business over and over, he said he had to tell himself, no. He said, you got to get yourself together. This is the tuition you pay for what you don't know. And it hit me. The first time I heard that, I was like, it's school. Mm-hmm. This is just school. When I mess up, when I lose my money, when I screw up, it's just tuition. I'm just paying for my private schooling. my one-on-one coaching, my
Yeah.
not substitute, what do you call it? My private tutor of life, and I'm getting handed bad things. I got to learn how to make it. So
I love that. It takes the sting out too. You know, it's, I mean, not that you're not responsible, but it doesn't have to hurt in such a deep way.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're big in community, and I know especially people who are struggling with substance abuse or any sort of abuse, especially things like that are coming up now with COVID. What kind of resources would you recommend that people go to so that they can start building a healthier community? Because usually where they are, they don't have the best people around them at that point, and they need to. Yeah. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not going to say the benefit of this pandemic, but one of the highlights is we're kind of stuck at home. So, and we have social media, is you begin not only limiting how much social media you access, but you limit the type of social media. Like for some reason, I just got a hair and I decided to download TikTok just to kind of check it out. And like, there's some really funny things on there, but there's some stuff I'm like, nope, no interest, take that off. And I'll filter through it. And I'll do the same thing with Facebook. I would say Instagram, but like, I don't have anybody. I get to choose who I follow on Instagram. But nobody pops up randomly.
Are you posting on TikTok and doing the challenges yourself, or are you just
No, I'm
okay.
I don't really follow fads. It's just kind of like hey, I'm going to bed. Yeah. I'm going to bed. Let me see these people act like a bunch of people. I did my TikTok before TikTok with a little camcorder, and I recorded myself lip singing. I'm past that. Like, I'm okay with who I am.
Okay.
I don't want the world to see that.
Yeah, it scares me too. So I have no idea. Something I haven't been a part of yet. Yeah.
No, I've got a couple videos like of my son boxing, or me with my new cup, or me at an expo that I just talked at Saturday, but nothing like no, I'm good. I don't follow. I try my best not to follow fads. But when pretty much, like I was telling you, I think it was Friday, Julie, you can't give out what's not inside. And so when you become intentional with what's being fed inside of you, and I mean filtering, I mean like, yeah, I love my friend, but you know what? Unfollow. I'm not going to unfriend him, but I'm going to unfollow because it's too much negativity. Like, I've got to shut off my phone sometimes. But the point is we have more control, and there is a ton of resources that we can access. Like I had a friend, not sure how she died, but she died recently, and it threw me for a whirlwind of emotions. Like I went through like a breakdown, and I was like, I got to do something. Like, I can't just sit with this happening. And I created a mental health support group on Facebook. Like, I did not sleep all night. I just sat there and pondered, okay, what can I do? What can I put in it? Who can be in it? But it's basically for people to not feel alone. And I think that's where we struggle, is feeling like we're alone. And during this pandemic, everyone's isolated to their house. However, if we can connect intentionally, and I mean socially and purposefully, say, you're a good person. I see you're positive. Let me connect to you. Let me feed off that. Let me watch this stuff. Like, for as much all the bad stuff, I believe seriously, there's a ton of more good things. It's just not being mainstreamed. So you have to filter that bad stuff out and intentionally look for the good stuff. And I was like, as an example, I was talking to a client the other day, and he's like, man, all the bad stuff going on in this world. And he's obviously the politics and the pandemic really was scaring him. And I was like, well, you need to filter. He said, there's nothing good going on. I was like, well, wait a minute. You're in this world. You do good things. So you're obviously not the only one. I mean, I'm here, not boasting my own self, but I try to help people. So there's good people out there. I said, but you got to filter it. You got to find a way to just look at it. I said, you can get on Pinterest, you can get on Facebook, you can get on YouTube, type in Faith in Humanity Restored. And that, if there's anything in your heart, it'll begin to swell. You begin to cry. And like, all right, there are good people. It's Faith in Humanity Restored. And that right there can change your attitude, your outlook. And once you do that, I would suggest anybody just kind of run with it. You're already in the mode. You're already positive. You're already feeling gooey and teary-eyed about all the positive stuff that you're seeing. Take it and run with it and just keep going. We do it with the negative. Why not do it with the positive?
I want to thank you for creating that Facebook group. I think that's definitely needed. I would definitely be down to help you grow it.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I would love to.
I do that often. And do you have the name of it and where?
Yeah. Okay. It's called Mental Health Support Group. And I think there's 3 of them. When I looked it up, I didn't find any of them with that name. But of course, after I made it, I found a few. But it has a picture of a black notebook with red lettering that says Mental Health Support Group. And it's based out of Texas. So the only ones I saw, there was like 3 or 4 of them. But that one is the only one that says, mental health support group with the black.
We'll get the link and the information from you, and
we'll
put it on the website with your testimony.
Okay. That's just fine. I can email it to you guys if you want to.
Great.
So I know that you're a spiritual person. I'm just curious how you, if there's any practices that you have that keep you spiritually fit.
Oh yeah, prayer, fasting, reading the Bible. But it really, again, because of my personal convictions and my relationship with God, I try to gear it all towards that, because that's what I see as my source, as the real source of power. However, if somebody doesn't have a faith in God, I don't discourage them from it. Obviously, I would encourage anybody into my faith, but I'm very respectful and be like, well, you don't believe that? That's fine. However, we can still tap into our spiritual selves. And again, personally, I say you do that by connecting with the one who created our spiritual selves. Like, you connect with God who made us. You got like a straight line to spirituality right there. Yeah. No shortcuts, no detours. It's like one-way trip, baby. But there are many practices you can do, again, such as meditations, your daily readings. There's just basically, whenever you wake up, you are in, trying to remember, it's, I think, theta, the theta mindset. You're not awake, you're not asleep, you're just kind of there. But you're not conscious enough to like do, algebraic equations. You're just, give me my coffee. I need coffee. Mm-hmm. And so that is the perfect time to listen, to meditate, to pray, to, when it basically, your flesh is like I want to call it your conscientious, your consciousness, the one that overanalyzes, the one that gets depressed, the one that gets anxiety, the overthinking. That's kind of running on low fumes at that moment because you're not fully awake. You capitalize on those moments as early as possible. Like, my personal ritual is I come in, we just got in our house, and one of the first things I set up was I have a digital Bible reader in my house. So you can hear the Bible all night long, all day long. Like, even when we watch our movies and when we're just kind of relaxing, the Bible is always playing. So I come into my living room and the Bible's playing. I read one chapter of my Bible. Our church does a blog. So, and I'm in the ministry. So like, we're kind of required to do it. It's not a personal choice. But I love the accountability. I love not having the choice to say no. That's just me. If I allow wiggle room, but what I do is I try to put myself in a position where I'm almost obligated to do what is right for me. So that way, I override those emotions. I don't feel like reading it today. Doesn't matter how I feel. I signed up for this. I voluntarily said, I'm going to do this. So anyways, I come in, the first thing I hear is my Bible. Then I'll pull up and I'll read a chapter of the Bible, and I'll tap into our blog and I'll do the blog. I'll do that before I drink coffee. Actually, I'll brush my teeth and then do the blog. And I don't want to give Jesus some stinky breath. But basically, it's I start my day intentionally. I started off with some form of biblical base, and that sets the tone.
Okay. Any particular proverb or psalm that you really like, or?
Oh my goodness, there's a ton of them. I relate to David probably more than anybody else in the Bible, because he was like up, down, up, down, up, down. And he was, the Bible says that he was a man after God's own heart, which means he was after God's heart. We all know he messed up, but what made him so authentic was he didn't hide anything from God. If he was mad, he wrote about it, or he told God. But at the end, what I love, anytime like I read one of his rants, is at the end, he's like, but I know you're merciful. I know you got my back. I know you still love me. I'm so angry. Why? I've done nothing wrong, yet Saul's trying to kill me. I know you're going to defend me. You know, he always brought it to an end to where, like, you know what? His mercy endureth forever. I'll be okay. And so, and anything, again, there's a difference between positive toxicness, like positive, what do you call it? Positivity, toxic positivity. That's it. Where it's, you're like overflowing with this fake positiveness, but then there's also, I'm intentional and I'm taking control over my emotions. I'm going to process it. I'm going to allow it, but at the same time, I'm not going to let it override me. At the end of the day, and this is, again, another mantra I have, at the end of the day, it's my choice how I feel. I'm going to get angry. I'm going to say things I don't mean. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to have feelings. I'm going to get jealous. They're natural. But at the end of the day, I decide which emotions are proper and which aren't. And I'm not going to let myself be put into a position where I'm so compromised that I end up doing or saying things that I will always regret. Again, we're allowed to grieve. We're allowed to process. And again, when we don't allow that wiggle room and we don't allow, okay, I'm angry, nothing wrong with anger, nothing wrong with jealousy, nothing wrong with envy. Well, there's something wrong with envy, but there's nothing wrong with wanting things.
Right.
It's all about where is it being geared towards? What are we aiming it at? I use the example of going to a taco place, and I tell them no olives. They put olives. Okay, so I'm mad. I could take the burrito and chunk it at the guy who I just know made my burritos, who heard me say no olives. Or I could say, excuse me, can I please speak with your manager? Thank you very much. There's olives on here, and if you look on my receipt, it says no olives. I'm still angry. I'm just learning to deal with it in a more appropriate manner. The emotion's still there. I'm just purposefully and intentionally lining it up to do what is productive and helpful. And again, that's where we become aware of our surroundings. We become aware of our thoughts. We become aware of, why did I think that?
That's okay. Mindful, being mindful.
It's a mindfulness. It's so, and I think we misunderstand and we underestimate the power of mindfulness. We do. It's almost like taking a break from yourself to look at yourself objectively to say, okay, let me think. Why is this happening? And what can I do about this? It's taking again, where my business comes from, HelmMastery. It's not HelmMastery, it's HelmMastery. It's showing people how to take the steering column in their life. And I apologize, I'm not trying to promote my business. I'm just
no.
Okay, we want you to, yeah.
Okay. So if you're going through, it's showing people how to take the steering column and to direct it where they need it to go. Not where they want it to go, because sometimes what I want is not good, but where they need it to go. And as James, I've got HelmMastery, and then James 3:4, which is now one of my favorite verses. It says, the ships, which though they be so great and are driven of fierce winds, are turned about with a very small helm. All we got to do is just change that rudder just a little bit. And it changes the course of everything we're doing and everywhere we're going. And so, again, you take in the emotion, be mindful and say, okay, they put olives on my burrito again.
Mm-hmm.
We changed my direction.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go this way. Because at the end of the day, when everything's said and done, you lay your own head down with your choices. Nobody else does. We can play the blame game all we want, but at the end of the day, we lay our own head down. And as Aaron Tippin's song says, whatever you do today, you'll have to sleep with tonight. Like, I want to go to bed with a clear conscience. If I make mistakes, so be it. But even with my mistakes, I can go to bed with a clear conscience, knowing that I made mistakes, but I learned from them, and I did the best I can today. And I'm not necessarily a big fan of her, but I heard Oprah has this 5 tips for life. And one of them is always give your best. Sometimes that's 80%. Sometimes it's 70%. Sometimes it's 30%. But if it's the best you can do, consciously, unconsciously, I mean, this is the only decision I know to make that's the right thing to do, then guess what? You can lay your head down and say, that wasn't a good decision. I'll know better next time. And so, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful way to end today's opportunity with you. Like, I think what you said that was a wonderful way to put it and conclude. And if you have anything else you wanted to say, though, that we haven't covered or we haven't asked, I'd, love to give you the opportunity to do that now.
I by the way, I really love you guys' theme, the live with joy.
Yeah.
Because it's a daily thing. It's not small spurts here and there. It is an everyday thing. Every day, let me find something to have joy about.
Right. I owe that to
do what?
Actually. And I partnered.
I didn't hear you cut out on that last part.
I owe that to Julianne. She created that concept.
Oh, well, good job, both of y'all. But it's the daily habits. And I'll try to, I don't want to get too scientific-y or too nerdy, but our conscious is what we're aware of. Our subconscious is our immediate reaction that we do without thinking. As children, when we're children, our brains are very moldable, okay? So conscious, subconscious, very easily to be trained. But as you get older, when you're our age, in our early 20s for a while, our brains don't just quickly adapt to new things. You don't just quickly pick up a language because our brains have already been formed. So when you create everyday habits, I mean, you do it, rain, sleet, shine, or snow, the mailman philosophy, and you do that enough times, what happens is it shifts from your conscious to your subconscious. Again, the positivity, all that stuff, the filtering, the standard, the inner value, the love, all that. You do that enough times for long enough, eventually that will shift into the back part of your brain, past the amygdala, past the hypothalamus, and it becomes an automatic response system where you do it without thinking. Immediately, something happens, okay, what's the best way to respond? Okay, this is what I'm going to do. It becomes automatic. And I believe that's the key. Like the Bible tells us, the rain falls on the just and the unjust. And, it's appointed for every man. So we only have so much time on this earth. And I believe to make the best of ourselves and to make the best of everybody around us.
Amen.
That right there is purpose. And you find purpose, and I believe wholeheartedly you'll find joy. And we know in the presence of the Lord there's joy, but what's the presence of the Lord? Fulfilling that purpose, fulfilling that need that God put you on here for. So again, you step into that wholeheartedly. What?
it's very interesting you said that, because, and you spoke about Oprah before with this. So I'm on a purpose-driven curriculum for schools that I'm working with Oprah's other half, Stedman.
Oh, wow.
To provide that to kids so the kids can find their purpose and realize what they're good at and have the skills in life learning to do so. So
yes.
Yeah.
And that, man, unfortunately, when we're older, we got to go through a little bit different patterns. But when they're children, they can pick up on it a lot easier. But it's just, it's when it becomes an everyday habit.
You nailed it.
Begin, do what?
You nailed it by what you just said.
Oh,
you
okay.
said
I say it becomes automatic to have, what can I do to make the absolute best of today? And you'll find yourself with red flags in your mind. You're like, whoa, okay, I'm done with that. Like, I like studying politics, but I get emotionally involved. And I've learned, like, no, I don't social media about it. I just kind of watch and listen and read. But even with that, I have red flags in my brain that says, okay, you're done. Nope. You're getting too emotionally compromised. Like, hey, to Star Trek, no emotion, step aside. You can't do that. And so shut that down. Let's find something else. Because my brain says, nope, that's too much negative. Nope, that's too much. That's stealing your joy. No. Ring, 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 danger, Will Robinson, danger, Will Robinson. It's stealing.
Yeah.
And when you have that, and again, just to kind of wrap this up, when you have that inner love, that standard, that value that says, I'm better than that. I'm better than my situation. I'm not better than anybody. I'm just better than this. You will begin saying, nope, not for me. This is stealing my joy. This is stealing a part of who I am, and I'm not going to be stolen from.
Beautiful.
Well, yeah, Tristan, thank you so much for joining us. It has been such a pleasure to have this conversation. Mike, is there any last words from you as well, or?
No, it's been a powerful hour with you, and I'm glad I was on this interview. So thank you. Thanks for your time.
Nice meeting you.
Definitely.